Hello everyone, welcome back to the Mystery Channel 33. I'm here to help solve more missing women, children, and men cases. This is a new series on my channel. If you watch my other page, Bossalini 33, and on my mukbang page, and I'm telling y'all about death row women, okay? Well, we will be talking about women on death row. Innocent and fake. Okay, the innocent ones, but they on death row because they probably taking a case for their child or something, okay? Like me. Um, and it's also the one that's actually supposed to be on that shit, okay? So we be talking about my daughter, Jill. She is on death row, okay? And she go by Paula Cooper. This is her mugshot. And it's titled A Violent Murder, A Child on Death Row. And they call her Paula Cooper. Was 15 when she murdered 77-year-old Ruth Pecky, which is Gina, in her Indiana home and was sentenced to death. But a campaign for her life came from an unexpected quarter, which is 25. Okay, this is Ruth. Okay, well, Gina. But it was vice versa though. So you already know Jill is innocent. Paula Cooper, Jill is innocent, okay? So let's begin. I already watched the video, so I found on YouTube. I will put in the description. In the spring of 1985, Paula Cooper was 15 and on her lunch break at Lew Wallace High School in Gary, Indiana. She and her friends Karen and April decided to skip their afternoon classes and head over to Candyland Arcade around the corner. Paul had been at Lew Wallace for just a few weeks. It was her fourth high school. Yeah, I remember that, baby. There were few constants in her life. When she and her sister, they do got me and Shanice mugshot with her now. When she and her sister were 9 and 12, their mother loaded them in the back seat of the car, closed the garage door, and turned on the ignition. Her intention was to end their lives, the three of them together in the event. She had a change of heart. They all survived, but that day have changed everything. That never made sense to me when I watched the video as well. After that, Paula and her sister Wanda and had begun leaving home in the middle of the night. They earned a record with local authorities at chronic Runaways. Their mother drank heavily and their father beat them hard at the slightest offense. The girls had pleaded with social workers and police officers again and again to remove them from their home. They were shuttled between emergency shelters and foster care. But every situation was temporary. Every move ended with their return to that house. At 14 years old, Wanda left for good. She had escaped to the home of her biological father in Illinois, leaving Paula without her one true ally. Along with her parents, who we was that, we like this. Okay, you might well call her sisters, but she my daughter. I don't know about me leaving though, but yeah. We had to split apart, yes. I couldn't talk to her. I couldn't talk to her. I couldn't know anything about her until now, y'all. But I always felt it in my soul, though. I would hear stories of her, but they never said it was my daughter, Leaving Paula without her one true ally. Along with her parents, Paula became the sole focus of her father's attention. Karen was Paula's best friend in school, and it's like now that I know, I get a lot of memories. I see it, y'all. That's how I know it's real. At 16, Karen was a large girl, often out of breath. Everyone called her Pookie, maybe because of her street face. My nickname is Pookie. No, that's Poo Poo. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. But she had a child who was 3 and he mostly stayed at home with her godmother. April too was pregnant though, she could still hide it. The girls walked the few blocks down to the arcade where they played games, talked to boys, bought streets. Not much was happening. Everyone was going bored. April invited along a younger girl the others didn't really know, Denise, who is Shanice, okay? But like I told y'all, you been here. My daughter became a friend, okay? And together they walked to the house where April was living with her siblings to sit on her porch and drink. Earlier in the week, the girls had robbed the neighbor. No, okay, this is vice versa. This is about my daughter. Broken a window near the back door, slipped in, and come away with $90. But they spent most of that money. Okay, remember when I told you I locked the first time? Okay, after we all got poisoned, y'all, at the wedding. Okay, me and Jill had a fight because I wanted everybody to come in my house. Okay, she did not want to go in my house. She went to her apartment. It was a duplex. It was next to mine. So she went. Don't talk to her. She want to go to her apartment. So I had a bad feeling. Okay, so me and her we started fighting. Okay, she said she want to go in there. Okay, she want to go in her apartment, right? Okay, so she seen the machine. Okay, she made it disappear. Okay, so I wouldn't know about it. Okay, so she in the bed, right? A few hours later, around 7 o'clock, I decided to get up and go to her house because I had a bad feeling. She didn't like the door behind her. Okay, so I went in the house, right? I went in the house and I went in her room. She was asleep. I woke her up. I like, look here now. What the fuck? Why you leaving the door unlocked? Okay. And she like, I'm sorry. I'm apologizing, mama. Okay. Okay. I gave her a kiss. I said, I'm gonna call you on your birthday. Okay. She like, okay. So I know for a fact I locked the motherfucking door. Okay. I went home. Next door. Tell me why this bitch was in the apartment the whole time. And she unlocked the door when she went out. That's why she got that $90. Then I called her at 12 o'clock. I called Julie at 12 o'clock. I said, happy birthday, baby. We talked for a few minutes. And then that was that. Okay. April mentioned an old woman who lived in the house just behind hers. We could go over to her house, she said, because she has a lot of money and jewelry and different things. The place the girls were talking about, the bright white house with the columns out front, was the home of Ruth Pecky. April told them she was a Bible teacher, an elderly white woman, and that since her husband's death, she had lived alone. The key to getting into her house, April said, was to ask about Bible study. You could scare the lady with this, she said to Paula, standing in the kitchen. She had pulled a butcher's knife out of a drawer. The blade was wide and 30 centimeters long. Paula slipped it inside her denim jacket. While April waited at home, Paula and Karen and Denise crossed the alley behind the White House. They walked across the stretch of flat lawn and up the front steps. See, I see a lot of code, but it's for me though. They passed between a pair of neatly turned thumbs and crowded onto their porch. Karen rang the bell. After a long wait, Miss Pelkey opened the door. Miss Pecky had grown up doing farm and factory work, but she was an elegant woman, her hair set in bright white curls. The look in her eyes was gentle and steady. She was only slightly shorter than Paula, but she looked so much smaller. She was someone's good grandmother, somebody's soft mother. My auntie would like to know about Bible classes, Karen said, when you all hold them. Miss Pecky opened the screen door and the girls stepped across the threshold. They entered the living room with a large fireplace. An ivy pattern covered the walls. The sofa was printed with leaves. Here and there hung small pictures of modest landscapes. A barn covered in snow. Paula carefully set her jacket down on the sofa. They crowded the old woman in the dining room where there was a large table, a pump organ, and a writing desk. Miss Pecky pulled a pen and pad out of the desk drawer. She would write down all they needed to know. She leaned over and Paul came up from behind and knocked her down. Miss Pecky landed seated on the carpet, legs splayed in front of her. The tips of her thick sawed shoes pointed toward the ceiling. Just within reach on the table was a glass paperweight. Paula picked it up and brought it down hard on the lady's head. For a moment nothing moved, and then a rush of blood sprang from the woman's head. She did not stir. Paula looked down at her. She had never before laid someone so low. Paula will remember what came next like this. that suddenly there on the tabletop with the knife within reach, and she reached for it. Her movements were exaggerating now. She slashed at the lady, shouting, "Where's the money, bitch?" She shouted again, then again, slashing at the woman's dress, growing more determined, cutting through skin. She climbed on top of her. From this vantage point, peering down at the lady's face, she saw Miss Becky earrings, like silver buttons, and those dark freckles that old people get on their skin. A key deep inside Paula turned and caught, and she was set in motion. She stabbed the woman in her chest. Her hand came down more than 30 times before she stopped, leaving the blade in Miss Pecky's stomach. Ruth Pecky was pinned like a specimen to her dining room floor. She would soon be dead. The little girls were suckling, stalking, moving through the house, overturning photos of Miss Pecky's grandkids and touching and tossing aside books and ornaments, family things. They took the key to her Plymouth and a total of 10. These were children, like the hundreds of others who had passed through her house. That's why she had let them in. Bob Pecky, Ruth's stepson, was the one to discover her body. After several unanswered calls, he had opened the door with the spare key. Minutes later, detectives began steaming in, and the White House on Adams Street became a public place. Bob stood outside, aimless as cars continued to pull up, until someone told him there was nothing more for him to do, that they were sealing Ruth's home. The next day, Ruth's murder was on the front pages of the country's major papers. Bible teacher, 77, murdered in her home, was the lead story of the Gary Post Tribune. Someone special killed. Read the Times of Northwest Indiana. They wrote about the event as a robbery. Ruth's grandson, Bill Pecky, was a steel worker, which we done call him. For 20 years, he had operated a crane high above a warehouse of the Bethlehem Steel Mill, from where a few thousand tons of fresh steel was shipped out every day. And long at home before his shift, he spread the papers across his kitchen table and clipped out each article one by one to memorize what had happened and try to extract from it some kind of sense. Within days, all 4 suspects was in custody, and any chance of making sense of the crime or its motives were wiped out. They were girls, all of them, 14, 15, and 16 years old. The Lake County prosecutor, Jack Crawford, and his team visited Bob to discuss what the pursuit of justice might look like for the family. Crawford had been elected on tough on times crime platform. Indiana was one of 37 death penalty states and a state that allowed for the execution of someone under 18. At the time, the minimum age for the death sentence in Indiana was 10 years old. Crawford was determined that the girls faced the ultimate punishment, and he wanted the Pecky's blessing. No prosecutor or politician wanted to see the victim's family complain in public later on. So he sat in Bob's living room and he did what he usually did in a murder case. He let the family speak for a while about their anger, their sadness, their immediate needs. Then he talked about justice and process and laid out their options. And as always, he finished by saying, "Is there anyone here who is adamantly against my decision to seek the death sentence for the killer? I wanted to hear about it now." To a person that was okay with going for death, in his experience, still was his 9th capital case. The victim's family members always sign off. And this is the prosecutor. Beginning in the 1960s, late 60s, a phrase came to dominate American politics: law and order. It was the weapon of Richard Nixon during the 1968 presidential campaign and was read about Ronald Reagan throughout his administration. True, the term was tied to the idea that many of the country's problems stem from soft enforcement of the laws at every level of the system. Democrats and Republicans alike began vying to be seen as tough on crime by voters, and that attitude trickled down to prosecutors around the country. The number of prisoners on death row across the country continued to climb. Crawford had always been attuned to the way justice was shaped by public opinions. Okay, I don't want to hear about him. After the arrest, Bob had returned to his mother's house, with everything photographed and cataloged by detectives. He was permitted to step inside. His niece joined him there. They were determined to restore order. Bill, his son, arrived to check on them between shifts at the steel mill. Okay. In the months to come, Karen, April, and Denise each received lengthy prison sentences for their role in the home invasion. Paula's turn for sentencing came in July 1986. The country courthouse had rarely been so crowded. Reporters from Indiana papers and international news agencies packed the benches of courtroom 3 for one reason. The chances was high that a teenage girl would be sentenced to death. At the plaintiff's table sat the deputy prosecutor who would be arguing the case, and Crawford beside him. Behind them were members of the Pecky family. Across the aisle, the public defender arrived at the case. Okay. Finally, Paula had her chance to speak. She rose for her statement. If she had been coached by the counsel, there was scant evidence of it. She was self-pitying and confrontational. She spoke in a passive voice, saying this act of terrible violence just happened. She looked out at the prosecution and asked, where were all these people at right here when I needed somebody? She gestured to the Peckies and challenged them. What's going to happen if they take my life? Is that going to bring your mother back, your sister, your aunt? No, this is not going to bring her back. How will you all feel when I'm in my grave? Okay. 2 months later, a young woman in a hippie dress stepped out of her budget compact car in the parking lot of the women's prison and headed to the visitor entrance. Monica Foster was petite and not much over 5 feet and just 3 years out of law school. Okay. Paula was being kept in part of the segregation unit that had recently been designated death row. Her cell was 2.5 meters by 3 meters, windowless and bright with fluorescent lighting. She washed her clothes in the small sink and kept the room clean. She had no chair to sit in and was grown accustomed to spending her waking hours pushed on the bed. This first summer had been hot with only a single fan to keep her comforted. Hardest of all was the isolation, 23 hours a day with no contact with the prison's general population, except those brief periods when another woman was put on the segregation ring. She did not know how many more of these days she could endure. A guard led Paula to the meeting room, stepped inside, and locked the 2 women in. The residents wore their own clothes here, and Paula had styled her hair and wore eye makeup. As they began talking, she burst into tears. Okay, we are going to breathe, Monica said, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Paula will sob through most of the meeting. Okay. If Monica was honest with herself, she had expected to meet someone more animal than human. Because what type of person, what 15-year-old would do what she had done? But the girl looked so young and so desperate. Monica quickly realized that Paula did not understand how the death penalty worked, how long the process of appeals could drag on. Cool, you ain't lying. Paula thought the guards might take her off to the electric chair at any moment. This was the state she had been living in. Monica told her they were filing an appeal and that if Paula was to be executed, it would be many years off. She had a whole string of appeals ahead of her. Monica said there were good and reasonable grounds why her death sentence might not stand. If things started to look bad, Monica would let her know. But even then, Paula's execution would be years and years away. She said, repeat back to me what I just told you. The fuck? She drew a chef of Paula that mapped out the entire applique process with boxes and arrows. Monica promised her, all of this is going to take many, many, many years. This finally calmed the girl down, but Monica could see that Paula was depressed not only because of her immediate situation but on a deeper level. Once Paula had started crying, it had been very hard for her to stop, and she remained overwhelmed. Nothing good had ever happened to her, she said, and nothing good would ever happen to her. This was Paula's life story, and Monica was determined to disrupt it. They don't do this to most of them. If this was a real case, they don't do this to most motherfuckers. The fuck? She and the appeal team had a long journey ahead of them. Okay. It says she committed suicide, I don't know. That's what they say in the article, but, you know, how they do that. This what the dude wanted to tell my daughter, okay? He was writing to someone from a black neighborhood on the other side of town. To a 16-year-old girl. To the girl who killed his grandmother, who stabbed her repeatedly and left her to die. Printing carefully all in caps, he wrote, "I forgive you." Then here come Kia. He did not know what he expected in return. Okay? And all they have of this white bitch, Ruth Picky, which is Gina, okay, is was a 78-year-old American living in Gary, Indiana, who was murdered by Paula R. Cooper. My bad. Um, August the 25th, 1969, okay, May the 26th, 2015, then age 15 on May 14, 1985, Cooper stabbed Pecky 33 times with a butcher knife before stealing $10 in her car. A year later, Cooper was sentenced to death on July 11, 1986. Cooper's age and sentence attracted an international uproar, especially in Europe, including a condemnation from Pope John Paul II. In 1989, her sentence was commuted to 60 years in prison. On June 17, 2013, slightly less than 27 years after her initial sentencing, Cooper was released from Rockyville Correctional Facility. She died on May 26, 2015, at the age of 45, following apparent suicide. Okay, aftermath. Cooper earned a GED and took college correspondence courses while in prison. Although she was sentenced to 60 years, Indiana law dictates that offenders earn 1 day off from their sentence for each day served with good behavior. She was released from Rockyville Correctional Facility on June 17, 2013, and died on May 26, 2015, following apparent suicide. Pecky's grandson, Bill Pecky, initially favored the death penalty for Cooper, but later joined the movement opposed in 1987. He wrote of having forgiven Cooper in 2003 book, Journey of Hope. The murder of Ruth Pecky and the case of Paula Cooper are the subject of Alice Moore's 2023 book, 70 times 7. I think that's 24. Shit, I don't know. Let me see. 70 times 7. That's 490. Okay. 70 times 7. That's 490. Okay, my bad. I was totally off. I'm thinking about another number. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13. Okay. So 4. Anyway, enjoy. This is the new series. Let me know who y'all want with.